Pull your pins out. Your knife block assembly. You got to get the wiggle it a little bit. It's kind of in there, kind of snug. You will take it out. You can see there's a lot of build-up acrylic adhesive on there. This is your corner cut knife. That's a straight knife. This is just a regular razor blade. So this one, this is your jig for setting this knife. Clean this hole out. Seat that in there. Loosen that. Loosen that. Take your knife. Put your new knife in there. Make sure it's tight up against the pin. If it's not tight up against the pin, it'll throw off your corner cut. It'll either be too deep or too shallow, which will result in very poor spacer application. Once you get that in there, make sure these are nice and vertical once you tighten them down so they're not kicked in on both sides. Take your jig out. This knife, you just loosen those, and there's two pins where the knife just drops in there. Tighten that up. That's all you have to do here. Periodically, this hose might get slugs built up into it where they're sticking to the walls, so it won't suck up slugs into your bucket anymore. If that's the case, loosen that screw, take the hose off, run a broom handle through there or something to clean it out. Once you replace your knives, slide that back in there. Put your pin in. Both sides. Put your jig back so you don't lose it. If you lose this jig, replace it. Setting that knife without this is not going to work too well. Now, one other thing we could check is guide work on the head. We got 2 gauges. This one really isn't all that important. That is for checking when your like tractor drives clamp to make sure that they're closing enough to hold the skinny one. Doesn't really matter. They just let them. If you're working on these, they just have to close together so they hit each other. That'll be fun. This gauge, on the other hand, is relatively important. This is for checking the rest of your guide work to make sure you have proper gap. So you got your corner pin here, your final guide block, and all your guide work down here, the spacer has to go through. This determines your gap. You can check it here, and you can check it in here. If your guide work is too open, your spacer is going to be really wiggly. So if it's too tight, it'll grip the spacer and you'll have spacer jams. Providing you don't take any of the stuff apart too much, you shouldn't really have an issue with it. But this block does wear down over time. So you will have to replace that. Therefore, you can use this block to make sure you set that gap right.